Imagine spending your entire life climbing a ladder only to discover it has been leaning against the wrong wall. This was precisely the nightmare that haunted Carl Jung as he watched patient after patient achieve external success while remaining internally hollow, a phenomenon that has only intensified in our modern world of carefully curated social media lives and achievement-obsessed culture. What if everything you have been taught about finding your purpose is not just ineffective, but actively sabotaging your chances of genuine fulfillment? What if the personality tests, career counselors, and self-help books are leading you further from a life of meaning? And most disturbing of all, what if the relentless pursuit of purpose is itself the very obstacle preventing one from finding it? These unsettling questions emerged from the work of Carl Jung, the revolutionary psychologist whose insights into the human psyche went far deeper than his mentor Freud ever dared to venture. Jung's discoveries about purpose were not abstract theories. They were urgent warnings about a psychological crisis he saw unfolding, one that has reached epidemic proportions in our modern era of unprecedented freedom, yet profound emptiness. Born in Switzerland in 1875 to a rural pastor, Jung's childhood was marked by isolation, strange dreams, and a sense of having two distinct personalities, what he called number one and number two, the former being his ordinary social self, the latter a timeless, ancient figure connected to something greater. This early experience of a divided self became foundational to his later theories about the human psyche and the struggle for wholeness. After pursuing medicine against his father's wishes, Jung worked at the Burgholzli Psychiatric Hospital in Zurich before beginning his famous correspondence with Sigmund Freud. Their relationship dramatically shaped both men's careers before their eventual bitter split. Unlike Freud, who viewed human behavior primarily through the lens of sexual repression, Jung developed a broader perspective. He became convinced that humans were driven not just by past wounds and biological instincts, but by an innate yearning for meaning and psychological integration, a search for wholeness he termed individuation. As Jung deepened his research, he observed a disturbing pattern in modern Western society. The rapid industrialization, materialism, and secularization of the early 20th century had created what he called a spiritual problem. People were becoming disconnected from traditional frameworks of meaning, religion, community, ancestral wisdom, without adequate replacements. Modern man, Jung wrote, is in search of a soul. This observation has only grown more relevant, with traditional structures of meaning continuing to erode, and the marketplace offering endless but often superficial frameworks for purpose. Many find themselves adrift in what Jung might have called a sea of pseudo-meaning: career success, financial achievement, social media validation, political activism, wellness culture, all promising fulfillment, yet leaving many feeling emptier than before. According to Jung, the approach to finding purpose fails in several critical ways. First, one typically searches for purpose as if it were an external object to be discovered, a perfect career, relationship, or lifestyle waiting to be found if one just looks hard enough. Jung warned that purpose is not something external to be found, but something internal to be developed through dialogue between the conscious and unconscious aspects of oneself. Your vision will become clear, Jung wrote, only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. This perspective contradicts cultural conditioning, which suggests that the right job or relationship will somehow complete a person. For Jung, such external solutions can never fully satisfy because they do not address the inner division that is the true source of discontent. And the second major flaw is the tendency to pursue purpose through purely rational, ego-driven methods. One makes lists of strengths and weaknesses, analyzes market trends, consults career counselors, takes personality tests, all valuable tools, but all limited to conscious thought. Jung emphasized that the conscious mind represents only a tiny fraction of the total psyche. The unconscious, that vast realm of memories, instincts, archetypes, and latent potentials, contains wisdom that the conscious mind cannot access through direct analysis. Until you make the unconscious conscious, Jung cautioned, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. One's true calling speaks not primarily through logical analysis, but through dreams, fantasies, meaningful coincidences, what he termed synchronicities. spontaneous emotions, and creative impulses. And the third critical error is the reluctance to engage with shadow aspects of oneself, those parts of personality that one has repressed or denied because they do not fit with conscious identity. These might include anger, selfishness, creative impulses, or intellectual curiosity. Anything that upbringing or culture has caused one to suppress. Jung observed that meaningful purpose often lies not in the already conscious parts of personality, but in the shadow. The executive who finds meaning in painting, the scientist who discovers fulfillment in parenthood, the academic who realizes their calling involves humanitarian work, all exemplify purpose emerging from previously undeveloped aspects of the self. The most terrifying thing, Jung wrote, is to accept oneself completely. Without this shadow work, the search for purpose remains superficial, constrained to possibilities that the conscious ego finds acceptable. Fundamentally, Jung believed the approach to purpose fails because it tends to be egocentric rather than soul-centric. The ego, the conscious sense of identity, naturally seeks comfort, status, certainty, and control. But true purpose often requires surrendering these very things. The privilege of a lifetime, Jung stated, is to become who you truly are. This becoming is not about ego enhancement, but about serving something larger than oneself. It often requires facing uncertainty, embracing suffering, and surrendering control, all experiences the ego resists. And yet, paradoxically, it is precisely through this surrender that most people discover their deepest fulfillment. Jung himself experienced this paradox during what he called his confrontation with the unconscious. After his break with Freud in 1913, he entered a period of profound psychological crisis. Rather than fleeing this state, he engaged with it directly, recording his dreams, visions, and inner dialogues. This difficult period became the foundation for his most significant contributions to psychology. Through this experience, Jung understood that periods of confusion, loss, or despair are often not obstacles to finding purpose, but necessary gateways. The ego interprets such experiences as failures. The soul recognizes them as initiations. There is no coming to consciousness without pain, Jung observed. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. This perspective reframes difficult life transitions, job loss, relationship endings, health crises, or simply feeling that something essential is missing. Rather than seeing these as detours from the path to purpose, Jung suggests they might be the very soil from which authentic purpose grows, and the disorientation they create can break one free from ego-driven goals, allowing deeper aspects of the psyche to emerge. Those who found genuine purpose typically underwent a shift from what Jung called the spirit of the times to the spirit of the depths. The former represents conventional values, wealth, status, influence, while the latter involves connection to something timeless and collectively meaningful. This shift rarely happens through intellectual understanding alone. It requires an embodied experience, often triggered by what he termed the defeat of the ego, which might come through external circumstances like failure or internal processes like deep psychological work. And this pattern relates to Jung's concept of the persona, the social mask one wears. Many people's search for purpose never goes beyond finding a more comfortable or impressive persona, seeking a career or lifestyle that gives them a pleasing identity without addressing who they are beneath these roles. True individuation requires moving beyond persona concerns to engage with the full spectrum of the psyche. This journey is not about self-improvement in the modern sense, but about service to something that transcends the individual ego. The aim of individuation, Jung wrote, is nothing less than to divest the self of the false wrappings of the persona on the one hand, and of the suggestive power of primordial images on the other. True purpose involves neither conforming to social expectations, nor being unconsciously driven by archetypal forces, but consciously relating to both. Rather than asking, "What job will make me happy?" one might ask, "What is trying to emerge through me?" Rather than seeking certainty, one might embrace uncertainty as a sign of engaging with something beyond understanding. Rather than viewing negative emotions as problems, one might see them as messengers pointing toward important unrealized aspects of oneself. Jung's approach to finding purpose involved practices many find strange: paying attention to dreams, engaging in active imagination, dialogue with unconscious figures, exploring meaningful coincidences, and expressing inner experiences through creative forms. These methods bypass the rational mind's tendency to stay within familiar territory. The creation of something new, Jung noted, is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity. This playful approach, following fascination rather than obligation, characterizes those with a deep sense of calling. They experience their work not as a duty, but as an expression of something essential that connects to something larger. And Jung's ideas remain revolutionary because they challenge dominant narratives about success. While conventional wisdom encourages one toward comfort, certainty, and social validation, Jung suggests one's deepest purpose might call in precisely the opposite direction, toward discomfort, uncertainty, and the risk of social disapproval. The heroic journey he describes is not about conquering the external world, but integrating the divided aspects of one's inner world. During his lifetime, Jung witnessed the catastrophic effects of humanity's lack of inner integration. The world wars represented for him not just political conflicts, but manifestations of the collective shadow, disowned aspects of humanity erupting destructively. This connection between individual purpose and collective welfare gives Jung's ideas relevance beyond personal fulfillment. In our world of crisis and polarization, the capacity to navigate uncertainty and integrate shadow elements may be collectively essential. Before his death in 1961, Jung saw the beginning of the counterculture, a movement embracing many of his ideas, and yet he might have predicted what eventually happened. These insights were commercialized and repackaged as techniques for enhancing the very ego they were meant to transcend. Today, Jung's warnings remain largely unheeded. People approach purpose as consumers rather than creators, seeking formulas in a realm where mystery is essential. They mistake persona development for soul work and flee the very experiences of disorientation that might open them to deeper dimensions of meaning. For those willing to engage with Jung's perspective, purpose emerges not as something found externally, but as a dialogue between conscious and unconscious, a creative response to the unique constellation of potentials, wounds, and gifts that make up an individual life. It is not discovered once and for all, but continuously cultivated through attention to dreams, symbols, meaningful coincidences, and the wisdom that emerges through inevitable suffering. As far as we can discern, Jung wrote, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. This kindling happens through confrontation with wholeness, both light and shadow. In this confrontation, one discovers not just what one wants to do, but who one truly is. Not just how to succeed in the world, but how to serve the soul of the world. For those struggling with purpose, whether in early adulthood, midlife transitions, or later life, Jung offers both challenge and comfort. The challenge is to move beyond simple answers. The comfort is recognizing that confusion and doubt can be necessary stages in purpose's unfolding. In the end, Jung's warning is also an invitation to live more authentically. It asks us to trust not only reason, but also the night consciousness of dreams, not just who we are, but who we're becoming. In this trust, purpose stops being something we chase and becomes something we serve, a living reality that grows with us, developing through us as we develop through it.